Okay, Travis Wayne Goodsell, Temple Covenant number 4, Law of Chastity, the fun one. I'm snacking on my lunch. It's going on over a couple hours now, and it's also slowing. These videos are slowing down my other program. I need to hurry up and finish these so I can get back to the other program, get that going faster again. Alright. Now, if you've not been paying attention to the others, you'll see that Brigham Young's influence is over all of this. He's the originator, not Joseph Smith. And so, Law of Chastity, you might see something a little bit weird. Because didn't Brigham Young practice polygamy? So why aren't they talking about polygamy here? Section 132 is still in the Doctrine and Covenants that Brigham Young established. Why aren't they talking about polygamy? Because the United States said stop it. And then they had to come back and say stop it a second time. And then the church finally complied. And so, in the discussion, Peter is still now in charge of the temple story, the temple drama, because God passed it off to Peter, James, and John when Adam and Eve fell from the Garden of Eden. And so, it symbolizes church authority, that all of us represent Adam and Eve, and we must comply with church authority, as if they speak for God. If only they did. Okay. So it's changed since 91. And so this is blatantly different. And the guy here has little footnote pop-ups that reveal the changes. Before then, they spoke to the men and women separately. And then in 91, they combined it back together again. The law of chastity is that you shall have no sexual relations except for your husband or wife to whom you are legally lawfully wedded. And again, what you see here is that how it originally was women were then told about their duties as either the first wife or other wives, and then men. So that's why it was separated before 91. And then Benson decided, hey, let's change the word obey to hearken. That ought to fool the women. And then merged the two back into one, since there's no polygamy anymore. But notice that it was written in a manner in which it shows that they are compliant with the United States. Legally and lawfully wedded. It's called sealings for the church. They don't call it a marriage. They call it a sealing. And so wedded? No. It should say sealed. You'd think, wouldn't you? Because the church is recognized by the state as being able to perform marriages. And even though the church calls them sealings, the state still recognizes it as a marriage ceremony. And so the temple, if you go and get your temple sealing, you have to fill out the paperwork, and the witnesses will sign your marriage certificate as witnesses to the event. And then the temple president will have his signature on there and all that stuff, and so that you're officially legally and lawfully wedded according to the world. And you think, well, yeah, so what, Travis? No big deal, right? You know, it is a big deal, because what is the practice of the church? The states said no polygamy, stop it. Church refused, so the states came back again and said, stop it. Fine. We'll put the official declaration in as if it were the first time around that you told us to stop. and so what still happens? Women, are you aware if you've been divorced from a temple marriage? Are you aware of what happens? So what happens when you want to get remarried to somebody? That's right, you have to get first the permission of the first presidency to cancel your sealing to your first husband or your previous husband or your original husband, whichever applies. And now they've made some changes since then, and you got to get permission from the husband and see if what he thinks about the matter of you canceling it. But yeah, you're still sealed to your husband. Now the husband, he doesn't need to get a cancellation of a sealing to marry another woman. He can still be sealed to you and go on and be approved for a sealing to another woman. And even though the church has changed it so that they now get your permission, they don't cancel the sealing. And so the man is practicing polygamy. And I wonder how many men in the church are still practicing polygamy. Still giving the thumbs up, the middle finger, thumb up, or the middle finger up to the United States, because the states recognizes the church's marriages, but the church will not recognize the state's divorce. So, yeah, church is still practicing polygamy. So that's why this is significant here, is that the church is complying with the United States, saying, okay, you know, you're no longer legally married to such a person, but you are still married in the church. You just can't have sex with that person because we don't want to go to jail because we're still practicing polygamy. And they want to make sure that, you know, regular people don't have sex also, unless they're properly legally wedded. But the whole concept of Joseph Smith being falsely accused by the church of having been sealed to all sorts of women, 14-year-old girls, married women, that's how the church is justifying this twist here, is that you know, Joseph Smith wasn't legally and lawfully wedded to those women, but he didn't have sex. It's just a spiritual wifery, and so the law can't touch us. Nah, 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 nah. And that's what's going on here. And it's ridiculous. Just comply. Quit fighting this, Mormons, Mormon church. And so, yeah, the law of chastity is a compliance to the laws of the land and not God's law. Because God's law is actually different when you understand the historical context. And people don't get it, they don't want to get it, because our current cultural society is so much different that you guys make the mistake of imposing our morality on everybody in history. So when you read the Bible about the immorality of the people, you make false interpretations and understandings of passages as a result. For example, Tamar was not a whore, but everybody calls her that. Alright, so yeah, that's it for the law of chastity. And yeah, if you violate the law of chastity, which was polygamy originally, you men were supposed to commit suicide. So if the men didn't practice polygamy, suicide. If the women didn't allow their husband to practice polygamy, suicide. And especially if one of your wives decide they want to get divorced, woman has to commit suicide. Mary, divorced wife of Brigham Young, she started all this. The number one cause of divorce is marriage. Something to think about. Okay, the other video's done, so we'll publish that. Got the thumbnail of Jesus chastising a Pharisee. We're done.